Renters and owners live in separate economies. No truer words have been spoken. I mean, with this economy, it's terrible, especially for renters, because the Fed ruined everything with their printing us into oblivion, and then now inflation is record high, and we have all these other issues, and it's the have and the have-nots. That's exactly what's going on right now. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that. But before we get started, go to hit that like button, share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon. That's where I talk about things that I can't talk about here. All right, so let's talk about this news. This comes from Zero Hedges, Tyler Durden, and commentary by Peter St. Ong via the Epic Times. And the article says that it turns out renters and homeowners are living in two entirely different economies, at least according to a new study by the Federal Reserve, which ironically enough made it happen. I'm surprised they even released this study. In short, renters are in dire straits financially, while homeowners are continuing to reap the rewards of cheap pandemic money that left renters with nothing but inflation. This is complicating the Fed's crystal ball as homeowners continue to splurge on everything from travel to eating out, quote, propping up prices with their discretionary spending power. Of course, the Fed's money printers are what's propping up prices, what I just alluded to. They're printing us into oblivion. But the robust homeowner spending means they're not seeing the distress. And here we've got housing costs climbed during the pandemic while renters' income stagnated. You see it went up, median rent, utilities 17.9%. And the median renter went to 3.2%. The rich get richer, the poor get inflation. The article goes on to say, I mentioned in a recent article how the Fed money printer works by injecting new money into the asset markets, which leave the rich richer and the poor coping with inflation. And people, and someone asked, why hasn't the stock market crashed yet? Why is stocks still soaring? Someone put that in the comments on one of my videos. This is the reason why stocks is the way it is, because we got a printing press and they're pumping all this money into the economy. It's making the stock market look like it's legit, and it's making homeowners look like they're making money, when in actuality we're not. We got a printing press that's propping these things up. But that process goes on turbo when they crank up the money printers, which they did during the pandemic to the tune of 7 trillion fresh dollars, 1 in 3. Hence the media's favorite economic theme these days, why Americans can't see the glory of Bidenomics. And they keep asking us because the rich is making crazy money. The top 1% is making so much money off of this terrible economy, while the middle class and the poor is being destroyed. After all, if you're a journalist at the New York Times or economist professor at Harvard, everybody at your dinner parties owns a home, bought and paid for. They own stocks. Again, the stock market. That's why the stock market is so propped up, and they're doing great, regaling one another with explanations of their investing acumen. Alas, the 90%, that's us, aren't at those dinner parties to regale. They can only speak in ballot boxes. Thank God we got an election coming up. It is going to be a reckoning. Heaven at the top, hell at the bottom. In raw numbers, the Fed report finds that nearly 1 in 5 renters fell behind on their rent in the past year, while rents have soared by 20% since the pandemic, coming to nearly $400 for the average renter. Renters are more likely to not be able to pay the electric, water, or gas bill in the past month, and they report much higher rates of financial anxiety. This all might rankle when CNN lectures them about how amazing the economy is. I mean, the audacity of these elites. This is the whole let them eat cake stuff. It's crazy. Like they pretend like everything is good for them and not understanding what normal people are going through. They live in their bubble. It's a whole other world for homeowners who overwhelmingly refinanced during the pandemic at average rates of around 3%, taking hundreds of thousands out of the Federal Reserve pump homes. They plowed a good chunk of that money into stocks, which also soared thanks to the Fed's near zero interest rate, the so-called everything bubble, courtesy of the Fed. That means homeowners actually save money compared with pre-pandemic. They had a larger mortgage, sure, but at 3%, the Fed actually lowered their monthly nut. So they had to come out the pocket with less money. They don't have to put out as much money as they did for their monthly mortgage. When the smoke cleared, the money printing orgy was a bonanza for the wealthy, and it was a cruel joke on everybody else. Above all, the young stuck watching the ship sail further and further away, giving up starting a family, instead returning to mom's basement to complain about capitalism. And I read some crazy article talking about how basically justifying saying it's okay for 30-year-olds to still be living with their parents. That's how bad the economy is, and they're saying that that's okay. It's crazy. I can't remember where I read that at. But conclusion, the rule of thumb in Washington is that the rhetoric is for the middle and working class voters, yet the policies are for the wealthy because the wealthy donate. So they say these things that they're going to help the poor, they're going to help the middle class, but the policies are actually helping the wealthy. And we see that. We see that. When are people going to wake up to that? Well, this means that government policies are bedazzled in sweet nothings about the less fortunate, or these days, the underrepresented. And that's what we are, the underrepresented. Only the people that's giving those $1 million donations and stuff are the ones that actually have any chance of changing these policies, is what they're saying here. And I agree with that. But when the music stops, somehow the poor don't get a thing. It is the wealthy who got the goodies. The solution's easy. Get the government out of the economy. Yeah. In the Fed, I agree with that as well. How long has Ron Paul been talking about getting rid of the Fed? Drain the swamp. And amen to that. We've been talking about draining the swamp. It's a dirty, dirty swamp. Of course, they'll fight. They'll fight that with everything they got. And of course they will. We'll be ready for it. That's why we're putting out this information to wake more and more people up. But let me know what you think about this. Leave your comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe. And check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest news. Until next time, peace.